first and foremost, breaking news, this administration is so incredibly invested in relitigating old wounds. They are so unimaginably invested in relitigating old liberal wounds, old grievances that they have from the first administration, that they're just having this like incredibly broad loyalty pledge that ends up attacking a shit ton of liberals, which I will recognize, I will admit, and I don't really know if I should even be saying this out loud. This is good because they're not making a distinction between like radical elements or anything like that. They're just straight up saying, if you've demonstrated basic empathy, you're our op, you're our enemy. If you say, you know, racism is wrong, you're our fucking op, you're our fucking enemy. And this causes them to go after less vulnerable targets, if that makes sense. This is so stupid. Like we're in an unprecedented crisis of credibility for the FBI. You got Kash Patel running the show. It's a clown show. And now, not only has the government, under the direct orders of Donald Trump, indicted former FBI Director Jim Comey for literally nothing, okay? It's very silly. Previous prosecutor said, I can't find anything that's prosecutable. What do you want me to do? Donald Trump fired him, put in a different person in his place, and then she dropped a case on Jim Comey like 4 days after she took over the role, right? Now, on top of that, the FBI is firing agents that were photographed kneeling during the 2020 racial justice protests. This is quite literally just an exercise of futility. It's an exercise of pettiness, okay? This is what you do when you're like, I will never forgive and never forget how they made me feel in 2020. Okay? It's so funny that is where these guys are at. So, number one, they did this shit. The FBI's fired agents photographed kneeling during the 2020 racial justice protests. And number two, they're going after Portland, Oregon. Now, the reason why I think this is funny, and the reason why I'm saying this has nothing to do with like current needs, right? Like they're not even trying to manufacture a crisis and then try to tackle that crisis militarily. They're just going after Portland because Portland has been an unhealed wound in the minds of national conservatives. They just constantly pointed to Portland. Portland's always on fire. Portland is out of control. Portland's going crazy. We got to do something about it. And Donald Trump did in 2020. He literally sent BORTAC units, the SWAT team basically, for ICE, to go to the streets of Portland and black bag people, okay? Just like literally apprehend them in the streets in unmarked vans with military gear. They did that, okay? But Portland right now, there's nothing going on. Like, yeah, there's protests, right? There's ongoing protests against ICE, but it's happening in every city. Like, there's nothing particularly unpleasant that's taking place in Portland currently that isn't taking place everywhere else, from Illinois to Los Angeles, in Chicago to Los Angeles, to many other parts of the country where there are ICE apprehensions taking place. The only reason why he just came out of nowhere and decided that Portland has to be tackled with the military is because they just don't like Portland. That's it. It's just like Portland is like a symbol for what conservatives despise about their neighbors and their politics. Okay. Okay. Also, doesn't this feel like a distraction, or am I tweaking? No, these are not distractions. If it's an actual initiative by the federal government to like exercise military power over certain areas that they just don't like because of the politics demonstrated by said areas, then it's not a distraction. That is the main course, okay? That is the actual event. This is the actual event, okay? Portland is being invaded by the United States of America. There it is, folks. There you have it. Pentagon officials don't know what full force means. This full force language is not a term commonly used in the Pentagon. No clarity on whether this means active duty troops or National Guard involved. No clarity on whether Trump intends to invoke the Insurrection Act despite the lack of any kind of major rebellion. Pentagon officials, according to Dan Lamothe, who does military affairs at Washington Post, Pentagon officials are seeking clarity on what President Trump means with this post about military forces going into Portland. They have no information to provide at the moment. At the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I'm directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I'm also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for attention to this matter. The less popular that they get in the eyes of the population, the more aggressive they get. Okay? Like, people are like, hey, man, we don't like this. Can you fucking fix the grocery prices, please? The more people go, dude, what is this? What is going on? I don't like this. Please fix the housing crisis. The more they go, oh, do you want me to be more aggressive? That's what I'm hearing from you. I'm hearing from you that you want me to kill people in Portland with the military. Oh, you want to kill American citizens with the American military as a domestic police force. Got it. That's what you want. It seems like that's the command here. That's what you wanted from me, and that's what you're going to get. Now, this is the reason why I was stressing the importance of not following an unlawful order if you are active duty. Just something to consider. Okay? It is literally in your oath. You pledge an oath to the Constitution. You do not, under any circumstance, have to follow unconstitutional and unlawful orders. Okay? Brother, you must be the most vindicated man on this planet. Wallah. Yeah, but it doesn't feel good because there is no cause to celebrate because I'm always predicting the worst shit happening. So when the worst shit does inevitably happen, there is no moment where you go, well, I told you. There's no I told you so moment. In any case, motherfucker put that jacket on purpose. It's a Ralph Lauren jacket. But yeah, Antifa Brigadier Commander at your service. Here it is. Anyway, I guess we can celebrate their incompetence overall. Once again, they are still trying, but this does actually make their efforts. This actually does harm their efforts in general, I think. Because, like, I try to imagine what a competent administration would do in this moment. And I think first they would have to do like a psyop. You know what I mean? Maybe even multiple false flag attacks or something to just like present an imminent threat. Because right now there isn't a lot of appetite for this kind of action by the broader public. Of course, there's this kind of action. There's appetite for this kind of action from like really, really hardline conservative areas that have like imagined a universe where Portland is on fire and they need to be punished by death by the American military so we can like stamp out any sort of like liberalism and leftism that is an imminent threat. But those numbers are not consequential enough. They're not big enough. And even those people will lose their appetite once they see it in action. Here, my Antifa commander hat. I'm going to go to prison, dude. I keep this shit up. I'm going to fucking prison, dog. That's what's going to happen.
Roughly 48 hours after a gunman opens fire on ICE's facility, he ironically shoots migrants, but yet we know he was attacking the ICE agents. That was the target. He wrote it in a note. He wrote anti-ICE on a bullet. And yet you had these protesters in the streets shouting, arrest ICE, shoot ICE. When in that actual shooting, Rachel, in Dallas, ICE agents went in and risked their lives to try and rescue and bring those detained illegal criminal aliens to some safety, risking their lives. They have been blasted as Gestapo, but you know what I call them, are heroes.
Absolutely.
To go into the line you can see of gunfire.
The video inside
you know what I call them, our heroes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh. Yeah, look at these dangerous protesters. They're deploying chemical weapons on our big beautiful. Oh shit, that's actually the ICE guys. Never mind. that's right. That's not actually the fucking that's nothing. That's not the protesters at all. That's actually the ICE agents that are doing that. Okay.
From the vans going in, and then you see all of these ICE agents coming out in the opposite direction, running towards the gunfire.
Running towards
in order to arrest.
And that's why they're heroes.
Yeah. Attorney General Pam Bondi wrote this on X: "The Department of Justice will not stand idly by in the face of such lawlessness. At my direction, I am deploying the DOJ agents to ICE facilities and wherever ICE comes under siege to safeguard federal agents, protect federal property, and immediately arrest any and all individuals engaged in any federal crime."
How close do you think we are to a civil war? I think like this is just discontent. That's it. I don't think we're that close. I'm not one of those guys. I've never been one of those guys that's like, it's a civil war. It's a civil war. I think until they just like completely dismantle free speech and due process, you won't actually have like real militancy. I think at most it's going to be mass unrest, and one side is going to have to give. And if there are significant enough numbers, on the people who oppose these kinds of ridiculous actions from the government, then it will most likely cause the government to just like scale it back a little bit, like inevitably fizzle out. But before we get to this guy, as I covered yesterday, let's talk about Trump's NSPM7 labels. They are labeling common beliefs as terrorism indicators. New order targets anti-Christian, anti-American, and anti-capitalism opinions, with the mainstream media distracted by the made-for-TV drama of James Comey indictment, which, by the way, that's such a non-issue. Like, I know that's a severe violation, right? But it's also a non-issue because it's just like, that's going to handle itself. What are we talking about? Like, that's not a serious, it's a serious setback, but it's also not like a serious problem because there is 0%. Once that gets to court, it's getting thrown out. Like, that's crazy. When people say, oh, is this a distraction? That is a distraction. The reason why I say that's a distraction is because I look through the indictment. It's so ridiculous. It is so fucking ridiculous. But dumbass liberals are so locked in on that because Jim Comey was like a television figure for them. Like, that is, I would go so far as to say that was like, this is even more ridiculous than the Jimmy Kimmel shit. Because like straight up going after like random liberals on TV by utilizing the FCC is a violation of the First Amendment. Whereas like frivolous litigation that the administration is like kick-starting when it's clear that it's not going to go anywhere. I think that's not that. I don't think that's going to be as big of a problem. With the mainstream media distracted for the made-for-TV drama of James Comey's indictment, Trump has signed a little notice national security directive identifying anti-Christian and anti-American views as indicators of radical left violence. Called the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, it's being referred to as NSPM 7 by administration insiders. This is the first time in American history that there is an all-out government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, Trump's Homeland Security advisor Stephen Miller said, referring to the issuance. To the extent that the major media noticed the directive at all, they, even C-SPAN, incorrectly labeled it an executive order, like this week's designation of Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. The Trump administration isn't only targeting organizations or groups, but even individuals and entities, whom NSPM 7 says can be identified by any of the following indicators of violence: anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, as in people who say anti-immigrant sentiments are born out of racism, extremism on race, as in to say that black people should not be disproportionately targeted. Because remember, by the police, because remember, this is the front-facing, most marketable positions that they can put out there. Do you understand? It will extend to anyone and everyone that is a liberal, that is someone who is maybe even not a liberal, but goes, I don't think racism is good. This extends to every single person in the United States of America at any given moment. Extremism on gender. What could that be? Hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family. Hostility towards those who hold traditional views on religion, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on morality. These are intentionally vague, but if you look at the combination of what they're singling out, this ranges everywhere from people like myself, people like ourselves in this community, all the way down to your fucking parents that were lifelong Republican voters who might have switched at some point to vote for Kamala Harris or to vote for Joe Biden. Do you understand? The United States requires a national strategy to investigate and disrupt networks, entities, and organizations that foment political violence so that law enforcement can intervene in criminal conspiracies before they result in violent political acts, the directive states. A pre-crime endeavor, preventing attacks before they happen, is core to the post-9/11 concept of counterterrorism itself. No longer satisfied to investigate acts of terrorism after the fact to bring terrorists to justice, the Bush administration adopted preemption. And for a lot of people who were oblivious to what they were doing at the time, this simply meant round-the-clock, 24/7 surveillance in Muslim neighborhoods, trying to find, like, the FBI used to do this all the time, trying to find people who are like, who have like intellectual disabilities and whatnot, to try to goad them into doing something, like to try to radicalize them, then goad them into doing something, and then stopping it ahead of time to basically say, look, we did it. Many such cases took place on U.S. soil, okay? This happened quite a bit. This happened a lot. The FBI used to do this all the fucking time. Okay? They would go after like some autistic teenager who's Muslim online, and they'd be like, ooh, you should get some Tenorite at this drop site that we left for you. And then they would apprehend the person and be like, this guy's a terrorist. We apprehended an Islamic terrorist. So basically what they're going after here, what they're going to be going after here is goading people into Fed posting, as we like to call it, and then trying to apprehend people for engaging in acts of Fed posting to create a narrative, or maybe even let a couple of these incidents go, right? Coerce people, intimidate people into taking action, and then letting a couple of them go, and then say, you see, this is a real violent and dangerous endeavor. We must react. Because right now, I mean, if this is a fully competent administration, which it's not, but right now, there isn't a lot of appetite for this kind of thing. There isn't a lot of appetite for this kind of like mass apprehension, right? But the goal is to manufacture some kind of consent for the federal government to start apprehending and arresting anyone and everyone that is remotely demonstrated empathy at any point. This tactic sounds familiar if you are aware of how America's allies have worked, or puppet states, dictatorships, fascist forms of governance all around the world that we've aligned with. We have done this everywhere else. It's called the Jakarta method for a reason. It was first implemented in Jakarta. Now we are turning that same scrutiny and same principled authoritarian fascist technique to the domestic front. Fascism is colonialism turned inward. And this is fascism. This is imperialism and colonialism turned inward.
ICE agents arrested the head of Iowa's largest school district. Immigration officials say Des Moines Public Schools Superintendent Ian Roberts was considered an ICE fugitive and was living and working in the country illegally. Lana Zach brings us more from Iowa.
Protesters rallied outside of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration offices in Des Moines Friday, stunned by the arrest of public school superintendent Ian Roberts, an immigrant from Guyana.
The general public, I think, is not okay with what's happening.
In a targeted enforcement operation, Roberts allegedly fled before being arrested. Officials say inside the vehicle he was driving, they found thousands of dollars in cash and a loaded handgun. It is a crime for someone without legal status to possess a firearm.
We do not have all the facts. There is much we do not know. However, what we do know is that Dr. Roberts has been an integral part of our school community.
Roberts became superintendent of Iowa's largest school system in 2023. The district says he disclosed that he had previously pled guilty to a minor firearms charge.
We have a plan to reimagine education here for the future in Des Moines.
But they say they were not aware of a deportation order issued last May.
Bro, this guy's this guy's a literal stud, okay? He's so awesome. A go-getter, an overachiever. The very fact that this is the type of person that this administration is actively trying to deport from this country, a role model, a pillar of the community, someone who is an overachiever by every metric, like a good person, but not just a good person, but like an Olympic athlete. Like, this is who we have to get out of the country? Are you fucking insane? This makes no sense. Like, go ahead, try to explain this to people. Unless you are straight up a Klansman who sees a black person and goes, hell yeah, I'm glad that we got this scary thug out of here. Like, most people are going to look at this and be like, why the fuck are you kicking this guy out?
Hi, I want to know why Mr. Nunn has not done anything about the administration and ICE detaining my children's superintendent today.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, the congressman is aware of the situation with Dr. Roberts. It is deeply unfortunate.
It's not deeply unfortunate. It's deeply illegal. 8 U.S.C. 1357. ICE does not have the right to detain U.S. citizens. Calling it unfortunate is offensive. They're fascists. What's he gonna do about it? What the is he gonna do about it?
Ma'am, the congressman is aware of the situation.
Aware isn't enough. What action is he taking?
Ma'am, all I can say is that the congressman is aware of the situation.
Okay, that makes it worse. Him being aware of the situation and a U.S. citizen, my children's superintendent, still being detained illegally is worse. That's worse. I was hoping maybe he hadn't heard of it yet, and that's why he was doing nothing for the people of this district. But in fact, he knows that the people of this district are being harmed by him, and he's just sitting back doing nothing. Shame on him, and shame on you for working for him. I hope you all go to prison. Have a terrible day.
Trump won the city of Des Moines 55-45. Iowa is red as fuck. Red state, white people fired up. This is hugely a good sign. Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think Des Moines, Iowa fucks with this decision. Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be talking, and he is also not an alien, but an immigrant. Well, I guess he's technically not. He's an American citizen, too. As I've spoken out against this time and time again, Israel saw TikTok as a major priority, a major tool of influence. Israel singled out TikTok as the primary factor that was, quote unquote, radicalizing the youth into hating Israel at a time when, of course, Israel was engaging in unprecedented levels of violence by doing a genocide. And to a certain degree, there is truth in this. The unrestricted algorithmic nature of the Chinese-backed TikTok app did actually open up a lot of normies' eyes to the cruelties of Israel. I'm sure it played a big role. Now, of course, ever since then, Israel has wanted to do everything in their power to take out TikTok or at least control it. Asked how Israel can shore up support in the U.S., Netanyahu says what we've all been saying. Let's take a look.
Which was actually my first published paper, was how you and the Likud party are cut from the same ideological cloth as Trump and the GOP in America. And so specifically with Charlie Kirk's assassination, who was a big mentor of mine, who's my first mentor in the space, evangelicals, from all my research, evangelicals are the reason that Israel has been supported in public sphere outside of just Jews. So with Charlie's assassination and with the kind of trajectory that we see with like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I guess I'm curious about what's another game and Tucker Carlson. I guess I'm curious about what's another game plan if we lose evangelical support for the state of Israel. What's our backup plan to be strong, like outside of the diaspora?
Christian influencers. Okay, you said we talked about the woke right, and you said I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke Reich, because these people, you know, they're not any different from the woke left.
Dog, I love how wokeness is so, like, wokeness is such a pejorative here that even when they're trying to fucking censor speech, which is exactly what these guys are trying to do here, which is what he's going to get to, they're still like, yeah, it's the wokes whose speech we must censor because we oppose them. Everything is woke, man. It means nothing. Word means nothing. It's just crazy.
I mean, they're insane. They're loonies. But they're actually meeting on some of the things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money. Money of
yeah. All of the vast network of pro-Palestine supporters, not the moneyed interest of Israel, of course.
NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster. Okay? We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay, and you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is followers. TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important?
Larry Ellison, major advocate for Israel. Larry Ellison, who has openly talked about being a shadow funder and also openly a funder of Israel, like when he was interviewed at the Friends of the IDF gala that was thrown together in Beverly Hills. I'm sure he's been interviewed on many other occasions as well, but that one lives in my mind. Has said, you know, we're doing everything and anything we can to defend Israel, to support Israel. Israel is the homeland for all Jews, all this stuff. He's the one who's purchasing TikTok. You already had all the data and Oracle servers. And now they're going to control the algorithm as well. Now, what's really interesting about a foreign leader saying this, to me at least, is if we're talking about foreign influence, I would, and I stand on this, I would much rather have a Chinese-controlled algorithm than an Israel-controlled algorithm, okay? 100%. Any day of the fucking week, I would much rather let the Chinese government store all of my fucking personal data than I would let the Israeli government store all of my personal data. If you think that's a hot take, you are not paying attention. I'd go so far as to say I would much rather allow the Chinese government to control the algorithm than the American government to control the algorithm. This is not even about my own personal biases or, you know, the Chinese Communist Party or whatever the fuck. It's very clear to me that the Chinese government is agnostic when it comes to dealing with these sorts of things. They don't give a shit. It's evident by the fact that they sold TikTok as well instead of using it as a method to continue influencing the American public. So they're agnostic. They don't give a shit. And I would much rather have a country that is simply trying to farm, simply trying to trade max, controlling this algorithm than giving it to the hands of a nation state that is absolutely going to use it for indecent purpose. It's that simple. Israel has not exactly hidden their intention to develop and design a sophisticated network of propaganda in the Western world. And it is evident by the fact that the one area that has not been as tarnished by some semblance of Israel's influence was fucking TikTok. And now they're taking it as well. There is a reason why so much of the mainstream platforms that you get your news from are so different and have been so different, or rather indifferent, to the cruelties of Israel for the past 23 months. Okay? Because that already has been completely servile to the interests of the American State Department and therefore the interests of Israel, because those two things are aligned. And you already see significant setbacks, censorship, and also like walled garden initiatives like those you see on Meta platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So they're already subservient to the interests of the American government. They're owned by American billionaires. They'll do whatever the fuck Trump asked them to do. We've seen it happen in real time. Okay? So the one truly independent platform in that regard was TikTok. And now they recognize that. They didn't like that. And they put the fucking claws out. And it's crazy that they're not even hiding it. Like, he just straight up says, what's the most important social media platform? Social media is more important than any other weapon here for Israel's war on information. And what's the most important social media platform?
Social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class
Followers.
TikTok. TikTok, number one.